Hello everyone. Once again, welcome back to the course of Object-Oriented and Analysis and Design. This video is brought to you by Newton's Group of Institutions. This is Arvind Egireddy from Department of CSE. Today, in this video, we will be talking about the use case diagram. In our previous video, we have discussed about the use case model. If you did not watch, please go through the video. I am giving the link in the description box. Use case diagrams are one of the diagrams in the UML for modeling the dynamic aspects of the system. So, activity diagrams, state diagrams, sequence diagrams, and communication diagrams are the four other kinds of diagrams in the UML we use for modeling the dynamic aspects of the system. Here, use case diagrams are central to modeling the behavior of the system or a subsystem or a class. And each one shows a set of use cases and actors and their relationships. And we apply use case diagrams to model the use case view of a system. And in most part, this involves the modeling the context of the system, subsystem or a class, or modeling the requirements of the behavior of the elements. So use case diagrams are very important for visualizing, specifying and documenting the behavior of an element. They make systems, subsystems and classes approachable and understandable by presenting an outside view of those elements which may be used in the context. So these use case diagrams are also important for testing executable systems through forward engineering and for comprehending the executable systems through the reverse engineering. And a use case diagram is a diagram that shows the set of use cases and actors and their relationships. And these use case diagrams commonly contain use cases, actors, dependency, centralization, and association relations. So like other diagrams, we use use case diagrams which may contain nodes and constraints. So use case diagrams may also contain packages which are used to group the elements of our model in large chunks. So here, occasionally we would like to place the instances of the use case in our diagram, as well as when we want to visualize a specific executing system. So here in this figure, the subject is shown in a rectangle which is containing the set of use case ellipses. And the name of the subject is placed within the rectangle. So here you can see the name of the subject. And the actors are shown with sticky figures placed outside the rectangle, and their names need to be placed under it. And here the links connect the actor icons to the use case ellipses with which they communicate. So they are linked only to the use cases, to the ellipses which they are going to communicate. And here the relationship among the use cases such as extend and include are drawn inside the rectangle. Now let us see the common uses. So here we apply use case diagrams to model the use case view of a subject such as a system. So this view primarily models the external behavior of a subject. And when we model these use case view of a subject, we typically apply use case diagrams in one of these two ways. One is to model the context of a subject, and the other one is to model the requirements of a subject. To model the context of a subject, this involves drawing a line through the whole system and asserting which actors lie outside the subject and which interact with it. Here, we apply the use case diagram to specify the actors and the meaning of their roles. And to model the requirements of a subject, here, the modeling the requirements of a subject involves specifying what the subject should do from a point of view of outside the subject, independent of how this subject should do it. Here, we apply the use case diagrams to specify the desired behavior of the subject. So in this manner, a use case diagram lets us view the whole subject as a black box. So we can see what is outside the subject, and we can also see how that subjects react to these things outside. But here we cannot see how the subjects works on inside. Now, let us see the common modeling techniques. So, modeling the context of a system. In any given system, some things will lie inside the system and some things will lie outside the system. That is clear. So, for example, if we take a credit card validation system, we will find things such as accounts, transactions, and fraud detecting agents inside the system, and customers and retail institutions outside the system. So, the things that lie inside this system are responsible for carrying out the behavior that those on the outside system expect to provide. So here in UML, we can model the context of a system with a use case diagram which emphasizes the actors that surround the system. So deciding what is included and what not is included as an actor is equally important, because in doing so we specify the classes, things that interact with this system. So to model the context of a system, we need to identify the actors that surround the system by considering which groups require help from the system to perform their tasks, and which groups are needed to execute the system functions, which groups interact with external hardware or other software systems, and which groups perform secondary functions for administration and maintenance. And also we need to organize actors that are similar to one another in an generalization or an specialization hierarchy, and where it aids understandability and provide a stereotype of each use case. So here the population of a use case diagram with these actors and specify the paths of communication from each actor to the system use case. So this figure shows a context of credit card validating systems with an emphasis on the actors that surround the system. So here we see the customers are of two types. One is individual customers and the corporate customers. And these actors are the roles that humans play when interacting with the system. So in this context, there are actors that represents other institutions such as a retail institute, so with which the customer performs card transactions to buy an item or a service. And the other one is sponsoring financial institution. So here, which services as a clearing house for the credit card account. So in real world, these two actors are likely software intensive systems. Now coming to the modeling the requirements of a system, a requirement is a design feature or a property or a behavior of a system. So here when we state system requirements, we are asserting a contrast establishing between these things that lie outside the system and the system itself. So these requirements can be expressed in various forms, from understanding text to expressions in a formal language and everything in between. So to model the requirements of a system, we need to establish the context of the system by identifying the actors that surround it. And for each actor, we need to consider the behavior that each expects or requires the system to provide. And we need to name these common behaviors as use cases. So the factors that are common behavior into a new use cases that are used by others, and factors of variant behaviors into a new use case that extend to more main line flows. So to model these use cases, actors and their relationships in a use case diagram, we add on these use cases with nodes that accept the non-functional requirements, and you may have to attach some of these to the whole system. So here in this figure, we see expands our previous use case diagram. Although it highlights the relationship among the actors and use cases, it adds additional use cases that are somewhat invisible to the average customer layout as essential behavior of the system. So this diagram is valuable because it offers a common starting place for the end users, domain experts and developers to visualize the specific construct and to document their decisions about the functional requirements of the system. For example, here the detect card fraud is a behavior which is important to both the retail institution and the sponsoring financial institution. Similarly, report on account status is another behavioral requirement for the system by the various institutions in this context. Now, modeling the behavior of an element. So here the most common things for which we apply the use cases is to model the behavior of an element, whether it is the system as a whole or system or a class. So when we model the behavior of these things, it is important that we mainly focus on what that element does rather than how it does it. So to model the behavior of an element, we need to identify the actors that interact with the elements. Candidate actors include groups that require certain behavior to perform their tasks or that are needed directly or indirectly to perform the elements functions. And we need to organize actors by identifying general and more specialized roles. And for each actor, we need to consider the primary ways in which those actors interact with the elements, and we need to consider also interactions that change the state of the element or its environment or that involves the response to some event. And we need to consider the exponential ways in which each actor interacts with the elements. So organizing these behaviors as use cases, applying include and extend relationships to factors, common behavior and distinguished expectational behavior. For example, a retail system interacts with the customer who places and tracks the order. That is, the system will ship orders and bill the customers. So here in this figure, we can model the behavior of such a system by declaring the behavior as use cases: place order, track order, ship order and bill customer. And common behaviors can be forecasted out, validate customer, and variant ship partial order can be distinguished as well. So that's for now. Thank you all. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon for the latest notifications.